You're listening to the Skip and Josh Sports Show.
Welcome to the Skip and Josh Sports Show. I'm Josh.
I'm Skip.
And for those listeners who are tuning in for the first time, we just want to let you know why we're doing this show. Skip and I have known each other for well over 25 years, and we used to live in the same city in Montreal. I now live in Toronto. And so we don't get to see each other as often as we used to, but we still do speak on the phone quite often. And most of the time we talk about sports. We've got our own take and our own opinions on sports. You're not going to find out, scores from last night's game or anything like that, because you can easily find that anywhere on the web. This is really, it's a show about sports, but it's more a show about how sports affects us personally.
People who know us personally have been telling us for years that why don't you just record your calls? They're like gold. They're like better than stuff that you hear on the radio, right? So that's what we're doing. But I think for you, people who know you personally, will know that you things can really get under your skin, and sometimes really little things kind of really bug you more than it would for, let's say, a normal person. But so I think for you, this is like it's your way of venting, right? It's a podcast therapy for you.
That's right. That's a very good description of it.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Like George's father on Seinfeld had this Serenity Now. Well, you have podcast now.
I have this. And just to let you know also, we don't get paid to do this, but if there are sponsors out there that would like to pay us, we can talk to them. We won't turn them away.
Certainly not.
So with that introduction out of the way, let's go to our first topic of the day, and we're gonna start with last night's Habs game against the Arizona Coyotes. Now, in the interest of full disclosure, there was a lot of sports going on last night. I did not watch any of it because I played my own ball hockey game last night, and I'll mention that I did score a goal, and I am in a lot of pain today, but I did watch all the highlights from all the important games. So I feel that I'm qualified to give opinions on certain things.
I like your disclosure. I haven't watched anything. I'm ready to talk about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Beautiful.
So all I saw was the first goal by Alexei Emelin.
I didn't even see that one.
Okay, so you can talk about the game then, and then I'll just give my 2 cents when you're done.
Well, I missed the very beginning, but by the time I tuned in, the Habs they were up 1-0 already. They dominated the game. It was like teams weren't even in the same league, to be honest. It was almost like a practice for the Habs. The score wasn't indicative of what the play was. Arizona's 2 goals were basically kind of gifts that the Habs gave them, and the Habs could have had many, many more goals. They were all around the crease, especially Gallagher, buzzing away. I mean, they had like one shift where the fourth line had Arizona hemmed in for 2 minutes straight and a minute 30 seconds. The Habs managed to change on the fly during that shift, sending on other guys, and we just had the possession, and Galchenyuk scored a gorgeous goal. Weber scored a goal on a slap shot on the power play. So I think Price made his return, got his first win in, I don't even know when his last win was. Last November, December, whenever it was. And I think the fans went home happy. Shea Weber was the first star, so I think it's the first step of, like, I think we're probably on, like, let's say, like, they talk about like addiction, right? That's a 12-step process. So like the first stage is, I don't know what they are, but I know the first stage is denial and the final stage is acceptance. So we're like probably on like stage 4 or 5. So I think Subban is slowly being a little bit forgotten, and Weber is going to slowly, make his mark.
Okay. And here are my takeaways from last night's game that I didn't watch.
Sure.
The Coyotes started a goalie from St. Hyacinthe, Quebec, Louis Domingue, whose goals against average, they yanked him halfway through the game.
He was brutal.
His goals against average so far this season is over 11. And I'm wondering if he had a lot of friends and family in the crowd, and that might have made him more nervous than he should have been.
Well, it's funny. Like, maybe it did. He probably did have tons of friends and family in the crowd. I mean, I'm sure he did. But I mean, I don't have stats on this, but I mean, anybody who follows the Habs knows that there is a long history of local, let's say French Canadian goalies that play on other teams who are garbage goalies who randomly make a start at the Bell Center and stand on their head and play great. It happens all the time. So you almost expect it to happen, and then when they started shelling this guy, I was like, oh, I guess that's not happening today, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the goalie they brought in to replace him in the middle of the game, his last name is Peters, and I'm wondering if he's related to the former NHL goalie Pete Peters, who, by the way, was the only adult I've ever known to have braces on his teeth.
Wow, that's a hell of an observation. Well, I looked it up because I knew you would ask the question about Pete Peters, and he is not related to Pete Peters. Although Pete Peters was fantastic in 1982-83, or maybe it was 83-84, Stratomatic hockey. Fantastic.
All right. Well, this is insight you don't get on any other show.
You don't.
So.
Who could even tell you about Stratomatic hockey?
Nobody. Which reminds me, actually, we should let the listeners in on the fact that we do have correspondents all over the United States, actually, who will be guests of ours on future episodes. We've got a correspondent in Philadelphia, another one in Atlanta, another one in Buffalo. We even have one in Chicago.
I forgot about him.
Yeah,
he's gonna be able to rant about the Bears. It'll be so good for him to be on with us.
Yeah, and we do have one in Pittsburgh, but I don't know if we're going to allow him on the show.
I won't allow it.
All right. Well, the Habs' next game is Saturday, and we'll probably talk about that game on our next episode.
Yeah, big game against the Bruins. It's kind of I think the rivalry is a little bit played out right now. You know, they haven't. Since that big playoff series a few years ago,
Milan Lucic isn't on the Bruins anymore.
He's gone. Chara's kind of old.
And Dale Weiss isn't on the Canadiens anymore.
Yeah. But there's so many new players, so it'll take a little while. If they ever meet again in the playoffs, the rivalry will be back full out. But until that day, it's just kind of like a little bit of an extra special game. But it shouldn't get too crazy.
The Skip and Josh Sports Show is back.
Now we're going to talk about last night's baseball game that the Cubs won 8-4 over the Dodgers. You texted me during the game. I was at ball hockey, but you texted me and you told me something about Lester and pickoff throws.
I'm going to tell you two things. It's funny because we're such big baseball fans, right? But how often have either of us really watched the Cubs this year or paid attention to the minutia of the Cubs season other than knowing that they've had a huge year? That's why baseball's really interesting, especially I find this year and last year. The season is like a long, dragged-out thing in a way, and you only pay attention to your team, right? So me, I don't have a team, so I just kind of pay attention to a little bit of what's going on to everything. You, I don't know how much you follow the Jays. I don't think you consider them your team. But, so if you're in Chicago, you follow the Cubs. You're in LA, you follow the Dodgers. You're in New York, you follow the Mets or Yankees. But when it gets into the playoffs, it's like a very captivating 6 weeks or however long the playoffs is, around 6 weeks of baseball. It's so intense. It's so dramatic. It's I really get wrapped up in it. So that's why I was so shocked yesterday when I saw John Lester, and I was floored to not know that he basically cannot field and cannot throw to bases.
When you told me this, I couldn't believe it either.
He's only thrown, they said the stat, and I was like, no, they made a mistake. Then he said it again. I'm like, he just made the same mistake. And then he repeated it again. I'm like, I guess he didn't make a mistake. So he's only made 3 pickoff attempts to first in the past season and a half.
See, that would sound like there'd be so many guys that would steal bases off him.
You'd think. So the Dodgers did steal 3 bases last night. The leads that they take are enormous leads. They had 20-foot leads. They were so far off the base that it's like I don't know why they weren't stealing. It doesn't really make sense that they weren't going all the time. Dave Roberts made a point of saying we're gonna he made a point of saying we're gonna go out and this is what we're gonna do. But then they just kind of bluffed, right? They didn't really try to go crazy on the bases. They just took these big leads, and it's not distracting Lester because quite frankly he knows he's not throwing, right?
Now he is left-handed, so
yeah.
It could be that the guys They're just fooled by his delivery, and they think he's going to throw to first.
Yeah, he is fooled, and he compensates for not throwing to first by varying his release. So he holds the ball, right? He holds the ball longer, and then the next pitch he holds the ball for a different amount of time, or longer or shorter, right? He varies like how long he holds the ball, like before he goes into his motion, so that throws the runner off in terms of getting their jump. But they're so far off the base. I mean, these guys are so far off the base. They have to come back to the base super quick when it's a called ball or called strike, because the catchers are throwing over to try to pick them off. And actually, it looked like they did pick off one guy because but then in the replay they ruled him safe, and then the other backup catcher threw down and picked off a guy. But I mean, the leads were enormous, and I don't know why they weren't stealing more. It was crazy. And he can't field because they were trying to bunt, knowing that he can't field his position either.
But did anyone get on those bunts?
Not really, no. It's kind of useless because you're asking guys to bunt who don't really know how to bunt, right? Asking Yasiel Puig, Adrian Gonzalez is going to get up there and bunt. I mean, he faked he was going to. Yeah, I know.
I don't think it was last game, or it was 2 games ago, where they asked Puig to bunt.
Yeah.
And it was the worst bunt I've ever seen.
No,
why is he even squaring around?
He is, I mean, of all the guys, there's no way that guy knows how to bunt. He's like the most fundamentally unsound player like in the league, right? He's just a raw, massive athlete who can hit the ball a mile and throw the ball 4 miles, run like crazy, but like he has no idea. He's like an untamed beast, right? So there's no way he knows how to bunt. So I just thought it was amazing that Leicester, they were trying to get in his head, but I mean, he was on top of them. He wouldn't let them. He didn't get rattled, and I don't know if he actually like can't, just doesn't want to throw to first, or if he like physically can't do it. Like if it's like a type of Mackie Sasser, Chuck Knobloch situation where he literally like cannot do it. Like his brain won't allow his body to throw to first. I'm not sure which situation it is, to be honest. Well, and I would find it more interesting if it was a Mackie Sasser situation. That would be pretty funny.
It's the same. I mean, throwing from the mound to the plate is almost the same distance as from the mound to first base.
Yeah.
So he can clearly make that throw.
Of course, he can probably throw it way more. They showed that the last time he threw to first, he threw wildly into right field, and it cost them the game. And then since then, he hasn't thrown to first.
So. Well, as I didn't watch the game, I got home late, and I turned on the game thinking, okay, it was close to midnight. I figured the game's already over by now. I turned it on, and somehow it was still the 9th inning because this game lasted well over 4 hours.
Yeah, it's because the Dodgers used 7 pitchers.
All these playoff games are lasting.
They took
really,
out their
really
starting
long.
pitcher in the 4th inning.
So that explains part of it. So I watched the 9th inning, and the Dodgers tacked on 2 runs in the 9th to make it seem like a close game, but it wasn't. But this is what I did notice. Right after the last out, Contreras was catching at this point. They had taken out Ross. And right after the last out, as Contreras is walking out to the mound to congratulate the pitcher, the home plate umpire stops him and has a really long conversation with him, almost as if he was scolding him. Now, of course, I don't know what was said. And then, of course, Joe Madden comes out of the dugout and then goes over to the ump as if to say, what are you talking to my catcher for? The game's over. And you had mentioned to me that a couple of games ago they had mic'd up the home plate umpire. So I'm wondering if they mic'd up the home plate umpire for this game, and maybe next game Fox will let us in as to what was said at the end of the game, because it seemed really weird to me that conversation would be as long as it was.
I'm gonna watch next game and see if they say anything, and also I'm gonna try to research it and see. It's interesting. I'm gonna try to research it and find out for our next episode what was going on, because that's pretty interesting.
See, again, insight that you don't get on other shows.
You don't get it, no doubt. So I mean, the game 6. I mean, it's Kershaw. So I mean, the Dodgers have their big ace. So I mean, great chance that it's going to go 7. So
yeah, our fact checkers, otherwise known as you, can tell me if I'm wrong here, but I believe every game that Kershaw has pitched in the postseason, the Dodgers have won that game.
Yeah, this year, yeah, but not
this year.
Not other years.
Oh, other years he's been brutal.
And certainly, even his numbers this year, even in the playoffs, even though he's won the games, he's been hittable.
Oh yeah, he hasn't been dominant by any stretch.
Yeah, so.
But I mean, if I had to pick who's going to win Game 6, I'd say it's the Dodgers.
Of course.
And I think it's going to go to Game 7 on Sunday night.
And then we'll have Arrieta against Rich Hill.
Is that Game 7?
I think so. Yes.
Okay.
Hi there, Skip and Josh will be right back. To get in touch with them, you can send them an email to skipandjoshshow@gmail.com. You can follow them on Twitter @skipandjosh, and you can visit their website at www.skipandjosh.com. And now, back to the show.
The next segment will be about football. And again, I didn't watch the game last night, but here's why Thursday night games annoy me. I had a wide receiver on the Packers in fantasy football, as did you. And we're actually playing against each other this week. So you used your receiver, which Jordy Nelson, you should start him every week. And he did nothing.
9 yards. 9 yards. He got 9.
So you got screwed. So now you're starting basically Sunday already behind the 8 ball. I, on the other hand, the receiver that I have is Randall Cobb. And I benched him because I was afraid that he would have a Jordy Nelson night. Well, of course, Randall Cobb had a great night. He had 17 fantasy points, and all of those are sitting on my bench. So both of us got screwed for the opposite reason yesterday.
If we would have switched brains, you'd be winning.
Right. And in addition to that, I'm still doing the pigskin pick'em, where I'm picking against the spread. And so far this week, I'm already 0-1. By the way, I'm going to invite you to.
Why, you picked the Bears?
I don't even remember what the spread was.
Wow.
I think the Packers were favored by quite a lot, and I didn't think they'd win by that much. I thought they'd win, but not by as much as they did.
And actually, you know what? It looked like a good bet for most of the game because the score was very low at the half, and it was a very close game.
And the Bears were actually ahead at one point.
Yeah, but then Hoyer got hurt, and they brought in ex-Eagle Matt Barkley.
You know, someone in the locker room after hockey said that Chicago's up 10-6, and I thought he was talking about the baseball game. So you know what? Actually, I didn't even tell you this. I'm going to invite you to my Pigskin Pick'em League, which is basically just me. And that way we can play head-to-head and see which one of us knows less about football.
Yes, I can't wait to find out who knows less.
So you can't pick the game from last night, obviously.
No. Well, we could start. I can do. Can I start on Sunday only?
Yeah. You can start on Sunday.
Okay, send it to me.
Because by the way, there's a Sunday morning game this week. Don't forget.
Oh, those are the best.
Yeah, in London, England. So I'll send you the link as soon as we're done recording this episode, and then we can see which one of us knows less.
Yeah. Actually, I joke about the London games, but a lot of football fans do like those London games because it just gives them an excuse to watch football literally the entire day, like from 9 in the morning till, midnight. So, and if you're on the West Coast, God, even better. You start at 6 in the morning.
Well, tailgating, if you actually go to a game, like a 1 o'clock game, tailgating, I think, does start around 6 or 7 a.m., which is ridiculous.
That is craziness.
Yeah. I remember I went to a Cleveland Browns game one year. It was actually against the Vikings, and Brett Favre was the quarterback for the Vikings that game.
Right.
And we were staying in a hotel not that far from the stadium, and like around 7 a.m. we heard all this noise, and we wanted to sleep in. The game's not till 1 o'clock, so we wanted to sleep in. We couldn't sleep. So much noise. We called down to the lobby. What's going on? And they told us that happens every Sunday with the tailgating. They start tailgating at like 7 a.m. So, I mean, go figure.
Go figure.
Yeah. I mean, if I did that, I'd be exhausted before the game even started. So, I wouldn't be able to sit through a whole game.
Yeah. And the funniest thing is that I told you, as you know, I went to an Eagles game last winter.
Yeah.
Eagles Cardinals, if the listeners care to know. The Cardinals destroyed the Eagles. That was like David Johnson's big coming out party.
Mm-hmm.
So there was the Sunday night football. It was the Sunday night football game.
Oh yes, I remember watching that.
So it was an 8:30 start. So our friend Mark in Philadelphia, he was like, "This should be interesting." Like the day before, he goes, "It's going to be really interesting tomorrow." I go, "Why?" He's like, 8:30 start. I'm like, "Yeah, well, it'll be cold, whatever." He goes, "No, 8:30 start just means the tailgating is going longer. It means the people are more drunk."
That's crazy.
Right?
So they still come at 7 a.m. and they wait all day.
They just stay there longer. And it's intense what the people have. We were walking by. People have these huge big screen TVs built into their trunks of their car.
how do they even get a signal?
I was thinking the same thing as I was watching it. It must be some kind of internet stream or something like that, but they had as we were walking by, the guys were watching, it was the pregame of the game we were going to, which was the highlights of the day, right? So,
are there any particular games this Sunday that you're going to focus on or not?
Well, they're all bad games.
Okay.
Really, honestly, listen to these games, okay? You have the great London, England game, the Giants against the Rams. I mean, come on. The Rams are the most boring team in the league. Cleveland, Cincinnati, complete garbage. Washington, Detroit, Oakland, Jacksonville, New Orleans, Kansas City. That one has a little bit of potential. Buffalo, Miami, Jets, Baltimore. That's a great game if you want to tune in for interceptions. If you like interceptions and are a fan of defensive back play, the Jets, Baltimore could be a barn burner. Indianapolis, Tennessee. I mean, I can go on and on. They're all bad, and the worst of all of them, Tampa Bay, San Francisco. It's too bad that Roethlisberger's injured because New England, Pittsburgh would have been like the marquee matchup, of the day. Arizona, Seattle, the night game was good. So I'm pretty much, I am going to watch. My son has already booked time on the TV tomorrow at 1 o'clock to watch the Eagles and the Vikings. And you know what's interesting about that game? Those Eagles fans are so notorious, throwing snowballs at Santa Claus and all kinds of stuff. I just wonder what kind of reception Sam Bradford's going to get. It should be interesting.
Oh yeah, that should be interesting.
Yeah, it
actually,
should be really interesting to see how badly the booing's gonna be. Although I mean, he wasn't bad for the Eagles last year. With all due respect to Bradford, I mean he was serviceable. It was the coach that was utter trash, and he's proving it again by turning the 49ers into a heap of trash as well. That last year, I actually started following this guy on Twitter, which was at Fire Chip Kelly.
Really?
Yeah, I still follow him.
He got his wish.
Yeah, he changed his handle. Now it's something else. He was at Fire Ruben Amaro, and then when they fired Amaro from the Phillies, he changed it to Fire Chip Kelly, and now he's just like Philly Sports.
Do you know that Ruben Amaro went from being a general manager to a first base coach?
Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
That's the weirdest thing I've ever heard.
It's so stupid.
When I read it, I'm like, this can't be the same guy. But it is the same guy.
Yeah, he had a great Stratomatic card. Speaking again of Stratomatic, 1 year Ruben Amaro had a great Stratomatic card. I think it was 1984.
Okay. Again, more insight that you don't get on any other show.
Yeah, so I'm going to watch the Eagles Vikings, and maybe it's too bad, Buffalo, Miami. God, when we were younger, that was such a marquee matchup, Marino versus Kelly. There was some crazy high-scoring Buffalo-Miami games. It was those were the games that were prime time, and it was so good. Now it's like Tyrod Taylor versus Ryan Tannehill. Not exactly excitement.
And you know what? The Bills are actually decent this year.
They are.
When they were 0-2 and they fired their offensive coordinator, I thought, why are they firing him? They actually scored a lot of points in their second game. And it was the defense that blew it for them.
Yeah. That's what everybody said.
And Ryan's not going to fire his brother.
No.
So,
especially after the crack Bills video crew did such a good documentary on the Brotherhood.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, they're 4-0 since, so maybe they're actually decent. Who knows?
Well, last week it was so obvious that the Bills were going to win. It was the return of Shady McCoy to not his return, but the first time he was facing his old team. He was facing Chip Kelly last week in the 49ers, and he just took it to Chip Kelly, made him remember boy, were you stupid for getting rid of me, he made sure that he had an awesome game when he faced Chip Kelly. That was when I saw that McCoy was having a great game against the 49ers last week, I was like, wow, what a shock, right?
The Skip and Josh Sports Show. They don't take your calls.
So Josh, are you going to tell us what's bugging you today?
You're kidding me? Boy, are you bugging me, man. I'm gonna nail. Ooh, God. I'm getting bugged now. Whoa, man.
So most recently, this applies to the NFL, but it does really apply to every league out there. You might have heard in the news that the whole Josh Brown domestic violence abuse case has been reopened, And now everyone is talking about. I mean, he's not playing in this weekend's game.
Well, they basically said he's not going to play ever again for the Giants. So
right, which to me, I'm fine with that. But what bugs me about whether it's Josh Brown or Adrian Peterson or any professional athlete who commits a crime, I don't understand why the league is the governing body that has to punish this player. If it's something that the player has done during a game and it's illegal, then sure, suspend the guy. But if the guy has broken the law, then it's the law, the authorities, the police who should arrest the individual, and the person should have a trial because you're innocent until proven guilty. And if they're guilty, then they should be put in jail. Don't tell me that, you hit your wife so you get a 6-game suspension, or you hit your son so you get a 4-game suspension. I mean, it's not the problem of the employer to mete out the punishment. If God forbid, if I broke the law or you broke the law, our employers wouldn't suspend us. We'd get arrested and we'd be put in jail, and that would be the end of it. So I don't know why everyone makes such a big deal over, well, how many games is he going to get? Who cares how many games he's going to get? This is more important than how many games he's going to get.
You're absolutely right. And it's been bugging me for quite a few years because this all started when Goodell became the commissioner. And right away he started suspending guys. And I remember thinking the first 2 times where he suspended guys, I think it was guys on the Bengals, DUIs or, alleged sexual assault, whatever. And I'm not defending any guys, and I'm not defending players who are doing bad stuff. And obviously we're not saying what they're doing is not wrong, but I agree with you. What you're saying is it's not the NFL's place to be the judge and the jury, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So as soon as Goodell started suspending guys, I was like, well, that's a slippery slope. Now he has to suspend guys no matter what. What if a guy is being accused of something and it turns out to be not true, and then Goodell suspends him, and then after they find out that oh yeah, the girl made it up, which happens, right?
Yeah, all the time.
I guess not, right?
So I mean, regardless, it should.
But the Josh Brown thing is a little bit different because he admitted to everything.
So I mean, even okay, so he admitted to everything, so he should be arrested, and then
yeah. Well, the Giants have the Giants basically let him go, right?
Have they let him go already?
Well, I think the bad thing about this is that the Giants are benefiting from this because they're not benefiting, but they're not being penalized in any way. They put Josh Brown on the commissioner's special exempt list, which is the same thing what they did with Ray Rice, which just means oh yeah, this player broke the law and we know he's a bad dude, but if you cut him, it's going to affect your salary cap. So I'll put him on this special exempt list so you, the Giants, can keep your salary cap the way it is and sign someone without being penalized, which is exactly what they did. They went out and got another kicker, and they didn't have to worry about the contractual consequences because he's on this special list.
I mean, I don't really have a problem with that because it's not the fault of the Giants that player on their
that's
team.
basically the same. It's the same old boys club. It's the same thing. That's Goodell doing a favor to the Giants ownership because the Mara family is been in the league since 1927 or whatever it is.
So we're going to close out this week's show, or this episode, I should say. We'll mention that this actually is the point in the show where we would thank our guests and thank our sponsors. Today, we didn't have any guests or sponsors. If there are any sponsors out there that are interested in being a part of the show, this is how you can reach us. Or if there's any listeners that want to reach us for whatever reason, this is how we can be found on the web at www.skipandjosh.com. Our email address is skipandjoshshow@gmail.com, and you can follow us on Twitter @skipandjosh.
The Skip and Josh Sports Show is over now. Don't worry, there'll be another episode soon.